Welcome to the Fishbowl with Jade. Thank you for being here. I don't take your presence lightly because time is something you can never get back. And the fact that you chose to spend yours here with me, that means something. So go ahead and put on your scuba gear because today we are diving deep. Let me introduce you to someone. Her name is Miranda. Miranda is a character from my book, What I Took from Them. But if we are being honest, Miranda is not just a character, she is a pattern. She is the woman, or even the man, who has dated enough people to recognize the signs, to feel the shifts, to notice the inconsistencies, and still somehow finds themselves in the same relationship with a different face. Miranda did not lack awareness. She saw the red flags early. She felt the unease when something did not sit right. She noticed when attention became inconsistent and when words did not quite match actions, but she translated it differently. A late reply became, he is busy. A harsh tone became, he is stressed. A crossed boundary became, he cares. She did not fall in love with who a man was. She fell in love with who he could be. And that is where so many of us find ourselves, not loving what is in front of us, but investing in what we believe it has the potential to become. Potential feels like hope. It feels like purpose. It makes you feel like you are part of something meaningful, like you were chosen to see something in someone that others may have overlooked. And if we are honest, some of us are not just looking for love. We are looking to feel significant in someone else's growth. But dating for potential is one thing. Marrying potential is something entirely different. When Miranda walked down the aisle, she believed she was choosing her forever. But what she was really committing to was a vision. She had taken pieces of every man she had ever encountered, the attentiveness of one, the ambition of another, the affection of someone else, and she unknowingly tried to bring all of those qualities into one person. She was not just in love with him, she was in love with what he represented. The possibility that everything she had been searching for could finally exist in one place. But marriage does not reveal potential, it reveals patterns. What you minimized while dating does not disappear after you say I do. It becomes amplified. The inconsistency becomes routine. The emotional distance becomes silence. The things you once called small issues become the foundation you now have to live on. Now it is no longer just emotional, it is legal, financial, spiritual. You are tied to someone who never fully became what you believed they could be, and that is where reality begins to settle in. From a psychological perspective, this is not random behavior. There is something called intermittent reinforcement, where someone gives you just enough good to keep you holding on through the bad. A moment of affection after distance, clarity after confusion, connection after withdrawal. And your mind holds on to those moments as proof of what is possible, instead of accepting what is consistent. Add to that optimism bias, where we convince ourselves things will improve simply because we want them to, believing that time, love, or commitment will eventually create change, when in reality, change requires awareness, effort, and accountability. Then there is identity. When you invest in someone's potential long enough, it becomes tied to how you see yourself. You become the one who believed, the one who stayed, the one who did not give up. And when that potential does not become reality, it is not just the relationship that feels like a loss, it feels like you were wrong. And for many people, staying becomes easier than confronting that truth. Society does not make this easier. We are taught to be patient, to work through things, to not walk away too quickly. Especially when it comes to marriage, there is a level of pressure to make it work, to push through, to endure. So when someone realizes they married potential instead of reality, they often do not leave. They adjust. They lower expectations. They normalize behavior they once questioned. They learn how to live around what is missing instead of addressing it directly. And to be clear, this is not one-sided. Men do this too. Men marry potential, believing she will grow, she will change, she will eventually become the person they imagined. And just like Miranda, they begin holding on to moments instead of patterns, hoping that what they saw in the beginning will eventually become consistent. But here is the truth that does not always get said. You cannot build a person. You can grow with someone, but you cannot construct them into who you need them to be. And yet, many of us try because building feels like control, while choosing requires acceptance. When you try to build someone, you are holding on to the belief that with enough love, patience, or effort, they will become what you need. But when you choose someone fully as they are, you have to accept everything that comes with them. No edits, no projections, no future version doing the heavy lifting. And that is harder than we like to admit. Now, let me get real for a moment, because this is not just Miranda's story. This is mine too. I have had my share of relationships. And if I am being honest, I was a fixer. I was the one who believed I could see beyond what was in front of me. I believed I could love someone into becoming better, that if I showed up enough, gave enough, understood enough, that something in them would shift. I saw potential everywhere, and I wore that like a badge of honor. I thought it made me patient. I thought it made me strong. But what I did not realize was that I was overextending myself into people who were not doing the work within themselves. I was building you where I should have been choosing. I was pouring into others while avoiding the areas within me that needed attention. And it was not until I stopped focusing on fixing everyone else that I realized I needed to work on myself. Self-work is not just a phrase. It is a process. It is looking at your patterns honestly. It is asking yourself why inconsistency feels familiar, why you are drawn to certain behaviors, why you override your own discomfort. It is understanding your boundaries and actually honoring them, not explaining them away, not negotiating them, but standing in them. It is emotional accountability, recognizing where you contributed to cycles by what you tolerated, what you excused, and what you allowed to continue. It is healing the parts of you that confuse attention with intention and chemistry with compatibility. It is learning to sit with yourself long enough to understand what you truly need, not just what you are used to. And it was through that process and that I met my person, not because I went looking for someone to fix, but because I became someone who could recognize what was already whole. That is the difference. When you do the work, you stop being attracted to potential that requires transformation, and you start recognizing consistency that offers stability. You stop chasing what could be, and you start choosing what already is. So let's take this a step further, because awareness without accountability changes nothing. You can listen to this. You can recognize yourself in Miranda. You can even agree with every word and still go back into the same pattern if you do not change your behavior. At some point, it stops being about what they did and it becomes about what you allowed. That is the part that is uncomfortable because it requires ownership. Some of you are not confused. You are conflicted. You see the red flags. You feel the misalignment, but you override it because the idea of what it could be feels better than accepting what it is. And here is the truth. Some of you are not stuck. You are attached to the feeling, attached to the potential, attached to the version of them that only shows up just enough to keep you there. So if you truly want something different, you have to start making different decisions. You have to choose consistency over chemistry, boundaries over benefit of the doubt, clarity over confusion. And that may feel uncomfortable at first because healthy love does not feel like chaos. It does not keep you guessing. It does not require you to decode behavior. It feels steady. And for some of us, steady feels unfamiliar. So we call it boring. We say something is missing, when in reality, what is missing is the dysfunction we became used to. I write about family, dynamics, and relationships, the real, unfiltered issues that happen every single day. Because every day there is a story unfolding around you. Some are loud, some are silent, but they are all real. You'll hear me talk about characters from my books because writing is more than storytelling for me. It's expression, it's release, it's healing. I just bring these stories to life through characters and pages. My hope is that you continue this journey with the Fishbowl with Jade and the Jade Empowerment Movement, not just listening, but reflecting, not just hearing, but seeing yourself a little clearer with every word, turning each page, going a little deeper, and maybe even recognizing a piece of your own story in the process. And if you do, I hope you find the courage to share it one day, the way I share mine, unapologetically and unashamed. Thank you for sitting in the bowl with me. Now let's come back to the surface. Stay classy, stay curious, stay ever evolving. The Fishbowl with Jade can be found on Amazon Music, Spotify, and Apple Podcast. Search Jade Mills. Jade.